In this short tutorial, we're going to show you how to work with APIs and do HTTP requests to fetch data from any tool you can imagine and display it from any page in Chrome in a sidebar. Let's jump in. We're actually going to walk through an example of fetching data about soccer or football, whatever you prefer to call it, players, and return that data in a sidebar panel from anywhere on the web that we've selected the name of a player. So to do this, we're first going to install Pixibricks if we haven't already, and then add the Chrome extension. That's part of the install process, and then we'll head into the page editor. To do this, you're going to right-click from any page in Chrome, click on Inspect, and your doc may show up like this on the right side, but if you want it to be on the bottom, which is preferred for Pixibricks, it's a bit cleaner, click these three dots and just click this icon here to move it to the bottom. Look for the Pixibricks tab, click that, and then drag this up a bit so you've got some more room. All right, so we're now in a good place to get started. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a new mod and start it with a quick bar action. So I'm going to click this here. And we're going to give it a name. We'll just say search player. We could call it whatever we want here. This is the name that's going to show up over here, and this is the action title that's going to show up in your quick bar. So we're going to change the context to be selection because we only want it to show up when we have text selected. And then we're going to change this to all URLs because we want this to show up on every web page, not just, when we're on this specific one. And so you can see what this looks like by opening your quick bar, which by default, it's going to be Command or Control M, but you can also configure other shortcuts for that as well. And we see it showing up here. So nothing's going to happen right now because we haven't told it what to do after that, but you can see it's appearing here. And let's go ahead and go to Advanced and give this an icon so it looks a little bit nicer there. So, okay, cool. And so now we know how to trigger this. Now we need to go actually fetch information. And so let's go get information about Ashley Williams. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click in this second pipeline here for your brick actions and add another brick action. We're going to search for HTTP request and add that brick. And then we need to specify the endpoint. And so depending on the sidebar you're building, this is going to differ, and you'll need to read the documentation for whatever you're trying to build. But in this specific one, I know I want to access this endpoint, which is going to return details about a player. And I need to change this to get because I'm getting information. I'm not sending anything there. I'm just asking for information and receiving that. I'm not planning to update anything. I just want to receive that information. And then lastly, I need to tell it what to look for there. And so I'm going to pass it search parameters. And this isn't something that you necessarily know off the top of your head. Oftentimes you'll have to look through API tutorials, API documentation on the API that you want to use. And that's how you learn what you need to put here. But in this specific one, I'm going to make an object and I need to put P because that is the parameter for a player. And then I'm going to pass my input selection text because this is a variable that references any text that I've got selected. So you can see right here, if I select this and I run Command M and I do search player, you can see that in the context here of my input, my selection text is Ashley Williams, and that's what I want to search. So now in my HTTP request, I've got that all set up to go, and we can confirm it's actually working by looking at this output tab while I've got the brick selected, and I can see that I've actually got a response. I've got some information about the player. That's awesome, but I don't want to necessarily open the page editor and do this every single time I want to see things about Ashley. Plus, this is necessarily not necessarily the easiest way to read this. So now we're going to add another brick. It's called display temporary information. And basically what this does is it gives us a way to render this information in the browser in a readable format. Specifically, we can choose a sidebar or a modal. I'm going to choose a sidebar. I can call it something like player info. And that's about all the time we're going to spend on this one. We now want to go, though, inside of this brick. It added another brick called render document. And that's where we want to spend some time here. So you can see there's a preview panel that shows what this is going to look like. If you want to start with just a title and some text, you can do that. If you want to completely start from scratch, select this second most outer element here and just click that trash can or the remove element button over there, and then you're ready to start fresh. So let's now add a header. So I'll click these three dots here, and I'm going to click header, and this adds a header element. Once I click that, I can customize it and call it whatever I want. And this is where I'm going to reference dynamic variables about the player. So for instance, let's say I want to include the player's name here. Well, I can go to context. Let me run the mod again so you can see what we've got in the context. And I can see all of the things that I can access from here. So I want the name. So all I can need to do is copy this, and it's going to copy that entire path so that I can replace the header and paste that in there. And that's actually going to return the details about her. So if I click preview, show live preview, you can now see it saying her name and not just, it's not saying @response blah, blah. It's actually referencing the input or the output from the request and then injecting that into the page. And so now that I've done that, I'm going to add another header element below it, and I'm going to maybe like resize this. So let's say I want to make this maybe like an H3, and from here, let's say I want to add the player number. And so I'm going to tip over here. I can add an emoji, and I can do a shirt, and then I can paste in that variable. Notice that I have to put the brackets around it because I'm referencing other text with it. And so this is how you reference variables if this says ABC, and that way you can put other text around it instead of just choosing a variable. So then once I've done that, I'm actually going to add a paragraph of text here. So I'm going to click this and add another element. It's going to call it text, and I'm going to click that. And then I've already decided kind of what I want to put here. So I'm going to copy and paste this in, but you could do whatever you want here. Notice I'm adding some text, but also some variables, and it's up to you how to style this. You can use Markdown if you want to make certain things bold or not. And again, there's different options for organizing the text here. So I could make, by default, it'll be left aligned, but I could make it centered if I wanted. I could bold it. I could italicize it. I could even change the color if I wanted to, or the background, any of those sort of things. Totally up to me what I want to do there. And now I want to show you one more thing you can add. So if you click these three dots, there's several things you can add for the record, but I want to show you specifically bricks. So adding a brick allows you to add even more elements than what you see in that dropdown. It basically lets you access other parts of Pixie Bricks. I want to add a table with some data. And so by adding the brick, all I need to do is click that brick and then go over here to my pipeline where I see it just added a new section for brick. And I click this add brick, and I'm going to search customizable table, and I'm going to hit add. And now I can add a table into my sidebar. And so I want to do this with data from obviously that response. So I'm going to put that there. And then I'm going to click add item to define some columns. So we can obviously do as many as we want here. I'm just going to add a couple to show an example, but let's add one column for nationality. And this is where I'm going to reference the nationality. Let's see, search through here, right there. And I'm going to paste that in there, and actually just need the string.nationality because I'm already telling it to go through the items in that array and go inside of one and find a property with this. So it's going to grab that value. And then same sort of thing. Let's say I want to do their current team. I just need to put in here string.team. Alrighty. And now, if you want to see how this looks, we can go ahead and run it. Select some text, search player. And you can see now I've got Ashley Williams. I didn't actually return something here. I must have typed something wrong in this one. Or maybe she doesn't have a number. That could be the issue. And then we're going to display all that information. And now we've got this table right here. So she doesn't currently have a team, so that's why that data is empty, because she's retired. So now we need to let's say we want to reorder something here, right? Maybe we actually want that table to show up higher. So go down here, and we're going to click this element, and you see there's up and down arrows that we can move it around with. And if you click Show Live Preview, it'll actually move them around so you can see what these are supposed to be doing here. So that's one way that you can kind of play around with it. And let's say I think that they're kind of too much on top of each other. What I can do is I can select this element and give it a little bit more spacing by going to the margin section, for instance. So let's say I want to go down here and I want to, maybe I want to add some more margin around this text or something, or I want to, give it a little bit more spacing around this header here. So I can just select a variable there. If I want to be more specific about like the top, right, or bottom, then all I need to do is select one of those specific ones. But let's say I don't think that's enough. I could do up to 5, and you can see now I've got a lot of margin around it. So that's just one option for what you can do there. And so now when you're ready, you can just save your mod, click this save button over here. And now from any page in the web, you can highlight a name. Let's search for famous soccer player. Let's see, Lionel Messi. Everybody's talking about him. All right, so let's select some text and then let's use our quick bar, search for this player. And we've got Lionel Messi, we've got the jersey number 10, we've got the nationality, and this whole description here. And we didn't have to open the page editor or go anywhere to find this. So this may not be the most useful example, like you may not necessarily care about fetching soccer player information, but you can use these principles to build anything you want. Use the API to fetch any sort of data and then display it in the sidebar, such as your tasks on Trello, or maybe your issues in Jira, or maybe it's different data from a Google Sheet. You can return whatever you need here. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, hop in the community and let us know.